Man, you are one pathetic loser. No offense.
No, none taken.
That is right, none taken. I am the movie moron. This is the movie moron podcast. And then
we're back.
Yeah, for
the Heimer and Barbenheimer.
Yep. For like the third movie this week because Mission Impossible is also coming out this week.
Boop.
Well, for our episodes, but yeah, I'm your host, Easton Moore.
I thought you were the ghost.
Thanks, Murph.
Oh,
I was the ghost.
Ghost Protocol?
No.
Oh,
I am Matthew McConaughey. Can you not tell? And then with us, as always, is our practical co-host himself, Trevor.
We should learn to talk.
We should learn to.
We should learn to talk.
what is that from?
Interstellar. These are all Interstellar ones.
Oh, I thought you were doing Christopher Nolan.
That is Christopher Nolan.
Oh, I mean, like, I thought you were going to be like, these are Christopher Nolan themed, not just Interstellar.
Well,
not just this movie you've seen once.
I tried to find Tenet, and
Aw, that's sweet of you.
there's no Tenet
That's fair.
sound.
There aren't really.
sound.
Yes.
There's just the of who else is in that with him with Washington. What's his Robert Pattinson? There's just of him falling past in that. I love that shot, man. It's so
These
good.
are the Tenet sounds. See, it doesn't even happen.
See, now we're all moving backward. These are good for like D&D sound bites,
really
and
are.
you want to like. Oof, yeah.
Which is dope, but it wasn't a quote or anything.
You
So
should be like, and now, here is always. Give me some background music. We got a third guy though. Who's this
yes,
guy?
we do.
Hi.
We have a third guy. This is our
Tristan.
cousin.
Yeah, it's just
It's the old-time guest, Tristen.
No, Tristan said, screw this movie. I just want to talk about Barbie. And
valid.
yeah, and so she's on her Barbie episode, if you haven't watched that one, and she talks about her love of pink and Barbies in that movie. But unbeknownst to us, Josh and his wife were in the movie theater with us.
Yeah.
And so after the movie, they were like, hey, guys. And then when Tristan said she didn't really want to talk about Oppenheimer, I was like, hey, Josh, you want to come talk about some Oppenheimer?
Yeah, dude.
So yeah, this is Josh, cousin, and the guest of the week.
This is Josh
If you're
cousin.
good at something, never do it for free.
Unfortunately, you are doing this for free. I'm not paying
Yeah,
you.
yeah, you know. I don't know if I'm good at it, so that's okay.
That's a Dark Knight one.
Yeah. He said his favorite was Dark Knight. So
Oh, good.
Great movie.
Okay, so just a preface. This is the Barbenheimer review. We release both Barbie and Oppenheimer separately. So if you have not watched our Barbie episode or want to hear those thoughts, it is a separate episode. This one is Oppenheimer. So I and my wife watched both of them back to back. Trevor watched, so we did the double feature. Trevor watched it on Wednesday and Thursday, and Josh also did a double feature. It was just a little spread out. 10 a.m. Oppenheimer and then 10:45 Barbie.
Oh,
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah.
He pulled a
Nice.
Trevor.
A nice fat break in there.
I was good. Bethany, my wife, she normally falls asleep in movies, but not during this one.
Oh, good.
I loved it.
Good. Okay. So yeah, I just wanted to get the formalities out of the way. Before we get into the review of Oppenheimer, we do have a first-time guest.
Woohoo!
So we have to do our first guest interview just so our whole audience kind of knows whether or not to take any of his opinions to heart. And I say the same thing for myself or Trevor or any other guest, because everyone has their own movie opinions. And
Different tastes.
yeah, everyone has different tastes. So you can kind of give some of your favorite movies. So kind of people kind of know your style and what you kind of like. And then if you have a few that you very much dislike, which it sounded like beforehand, you don't have too many, but maybe you thought of a few. But yeah, you can kind of give your favorite and some of your least favorite. It's not a strict amount. You say as much as you want or as little. So
I mean, kind of like, the Letterboxd top 4.
Yeah, Yeah.
I already see it on there, and I'm ready for it.
You know it. Number one, which has caused quite a controversy on the show, is Blues Brothers.
Oh yeah, because I
Still
haven't
not
seen it.
That's my all-time favorite, man. I love that movie so much.
What's that? It's 128 miles to Chicago. We got half pack of cigarettes. It's dark outside. And we're wearing sunglasses.
Hit it. So good. So that's like my go-to. I can watch it a million times. Sing Street, which is you know it. You guys know it, but
It's
not a lot of people
one of my
do.
favorites. Yeah.
Irish film, really, really good. Takes place during the Troubles, and but it's not about the Troubles. It's just about being a kid at that time and making music, and I really love that story.
So, a real quick little
Yeah.
peek behind the curtain. Josh is a history teacher.
Yes.
What is the Troubles?
Troubles was a war, an ongoing military conflict between Ireland, Irish separatists, and the British occupation of Ireland. And,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, history lesson.
Yeah. I didn't know it took place during that.
It's very. I mean, it's not really like the focus of the story,
No,
but
no.
it's going on in the background, and it's why like everything is so drab and drear. Besides the fact that it's like Ireland and the UK and all
Making
that
music
stuff.
videos.
Yeah, it's just about being a kid, but that is like part of why like there's economic struggles and stuff like that in that story. I always put Into the Spider-Verse in there. I've been a Spider-Man fan since I was a little kid, and that story is just awesome. So good. The music, the score, the use of music in that film, so good. And
so are you more on Into the Spider-Verse or Across the Spider-Verse?
I mean, I think still Into the Spider-Verse. We'll see what happens with Across Part 2.
That's where I'm at.
You know,
Everyone...
it's just like...
But guys, it's not part 2. It's beyond the Spider-Verse.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So I want to see where that goes first, but
Yeah.
and I just that What's Up Danger scene, like where Miles really figures out what he can do. So good.
Yeah.
His choice.
And then Empire Strikes Back will always
Star
be
Wars.
there ever since I was a kid.
Yeah.
Always been one of my favorites. My fifth alternating one that kind of gets subbed out sometimes is Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah.
I love
Good
the
pick.
music in that movie. I love the video gamey feel, the comic booky feel.
Yeah.
And
Great adaptation.
yeah, I really do love that one.
Probably one of the best to do the comic book /
Yeah.
video game style in a movie.
And I
really
think it's
own
funny
it.
that people will be like, when people answer that was Scott Pilgrim was their favorite comic book movie, I just love when people answer that because that's a real answer because
Yeah.
that's a comic book.
Yeah.
And like,
Was it a video game first or...
No, it was a comic book.
So
first.
well, I meant like, was it a comic book, then a video game, then the movie? Or was it
I think
comic book,
it's-
movie, then video
I
game?
think it's the
movie-
second one. I think it's movie,
Yeah.
movie, video game.
Okay.
Because
So I know people love the video game
Yeah.
too, but
yeah,
that's...
and the Xboxes that have that original game on there were going for like thousands of
Before they
dollars.
remade it?
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I think I realized that I like movies about music a lot.
Yeah.
Because you put Blues Brothers, Sing Street.
You got to
it's
get
about-
on some Damien Chazelle, man.
Yeah.
Yes. La La Land,
Oh, of course, La La
Whiplash.
Land. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yeah,
Great
uh,
least favorite movies.
Tar for you, I guess.
Tar is so good.
Yeah. I'm not a... I'm
That's not Damien Chazelle though. That's
No, it's not. I was just saying movies about
yeah,
music.
music, yeah.
Music.
Yeah.
Tar's another one of those.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of Tar or Babylon, but... Okay, least favorite?
Like I said, I don't really like if it's a movie I think I'm not gonna like. I just don't watch it. Like I don't really like horror movies. I just don't like that uncomfortable feeling the
Sure.
whole time. I'll like some of them, but like generally speaking, like that's why I didn't go see like Insidious with you guys and all that stuff.
Oh yeah, I did ask you
I was like,
because I didn't want to go by myself.
You don't want to be scared in the theater by
I
yourself?
just didn't want to go alone, man. I asked like 4 people, and they were all like, "No, not like no," But no, I get it.
I mean, like I joke, and we got into this the other day on Twitter. Like I'm a professional Matthew McConaughey hater.
Yes, you
Oh,
did say this.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's more to do with his like personal antics. Like you guys
The
know
Lincoln
this.
commercial.
Yeah, like the Lincoln commercials, and like you know this. I'm a big fan of Kansas
K-State.
State.
He's a big
my alma
Texas
mater,
guy.
and he's a big Texas guy. And like,
Yeah.
there's this GIF or clip of him. He's like the administrator of culture or something like that
Yeah.
for Texas, and he's at a basketball game, and the basketball players are like on the bench in a timeout, and he like gets up onto the court and is like, get up, and I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Just some guy.
You're not a coach.
Like, I'm sure he's a nice guy, and like I think he
Yeah.
actually has done some pretty good like charity work and stuff like that. But every now and then I'm just like,
You cringe. You feel like he's a cringeworthy actor.
yeah, he's
off,
not bad by any means.
off the
but-
screen. Yeah.
That's kind of like Tom Cruise. I mean, not so long ago, like people, but they weren't hating on Tom Cruise, but it was like, the way he's with women and the Scientology stuff.
Yeah.
And he's kind of gross. But the past like couple of years, people have really turned around on him as a person.
Yeah.
People always say that about Leo too, until
Oh,
he comes out with another banger and people forget about it for a year and a half, and then
It's slowly
he gets a new girlfriend. And they're like, "Hey, wait a second,
Wait a second.
How old is she?
yeah."
Right.
And how old was it? The one that you just broke up with?
Yeah.
Yeah. The same age. What? What? But you're old. No, okay.
You're 65, and she's 21. Okay,
It's just like for Dazed and Confused.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Matthew McConaughey.
It all full circle. It all comes back.
I guess Leo saw that as a young adult and really took it to heart.
Yeah.
He decided to stick with college age chicks instead of high school, but
Yeah.
you know. Okay. Well, there you go. There's a couple. There's no movies he dislikes. It's just Matthew McConaughey that he doesn't like.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't want to watch it, if he thinks it's going to be bad, he's like, I'm not going to waste my time. Whereas some of us torture ourselves for the possibility of it being good.
It's a curse.
Yes. Okay, now we're going to talk about Oppenheimer, what everybody is here to listen to our thoughts about. This is Christopher Nolan's, I think like 10th or 11th?
Yeah, I was thinking upper 10, like 8 or 9,
9,
something
10,
like that.
11, 12th.
12th, yeah.
12th feature, because he has Following, Insomnia, Prestige, Oppenheimer, the Batman trilogy, Memento, Tenet, Dunkirk, Inception, and Interstellar. I do want all of us to say our favorite Christopher Nolan movies real quick.
Oh.
Mine, Interstellar, by far. Every time I watch it, it just gets that much better. But I also don't think he has a miss. Like, Prestige was my favorite.
They're all up there.
Prestige was one of my favorites for a long time, past the Dark Knight trilogy, and then I kind of got my Batman phase and really liked the Dark Knight, and then I kind of got out of my Batman phase, and then Tenet came out, and I was like, this is amazing. And then I watched Interstellar and was like, nope, this is it. I'm going to listen to this soundtrack at least once a week.
I feel like when you talk about the Christopher Nolan movies, you have to say your favorite like Nolan original, and then it's like which one's your favorite Batman almost.
Yeah,
but maybe not. I don't know. Because I feel like in that conversation, like you said, like everyone has like a Batman phase where they're like, no, Nolan's Batmans are they're up there.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's a little thought that popped in my intrusive
and then
thought. I'm sorry.
the Batman happened, and
Oof.
now people are.
But guess what? They can both be good.
Yeah, it's true.
What? Didn't know that?
Enjoy them all. That's good.
That's right.
Even if you want to enjoy the old Batman movies like
Hey,
you
man,
do.
Batman 89
Yeah.
holds up.
That's pretty good.
It's good.
Okay, well, what's your favorite?
Tenet.
Tenet. Okay.
Yeah.
There you go. And then Josh.
I mean, like Dark Knight is definitely always going to be up there. But I mean, we'll say the other history movie, Dunkirk.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean that's a great movie.
Yeah. There's a few people that say that I think it was Quentin Tarantino. That said Dunkirk has the best like war shot of all
Yeah,
time.
I feel like I did see that.
Yeah.
I can see that.
I also saw a photo of him purchasing a ticket for Barbie
I
on
saw
Twitter
that too.
recently. That was kind of fun.
I
hope
mean,
he
to be
enjoyed that.
fair, he just wanted to see Margot Robbie's feet.
I was gonna be
It was in the trailer. He's like, "Ooh, I'm gonna get all of this."
sprints across the theater.
I mean, I feel like he already shot her feet, so like he should be good. But I guess the more maybe a bigger screen,
Gotta get that 70
right.
millimeter
Yeah.
IMAX experience.
Yeah, the joke that was going around of Oppenheimer, the person that sat in the very front
yeah.
row of Sunday. That's Quentin Tarantino for Barbie,
Barbie.
just waiting for the foot to come up on the screen.
That's right. He wants to be right next to him at the bottom.
Okay, so yeah, now we got some not rankings, but at least some favorites, and yeah, let's just get right into general thoughts of Oppenheimer. Trevor, what was your general thoughts on this movie?
So I'll say this with the same thing I started my Letterboxd review with is I shouldn't doubt Nolan, and it kind of hit me during this. This isn't the first movie where he just kind of drops you in the middle of the action. I found the first act pretty confusing for a little bit. Not confusing, you can figure it out fairly quickly, but it's fast paced. and you don't necessarily know what means what. Like all the shots with Robert Downey are like all in black and white.
Yeah.
And he's talking about an event that happened like before, but it's not where the movie actually starts in the timeline.
Yes, there's a lot of time jumping in this movie,
Yeah.
and I think they do a good job of communicating when it is in time. But at the beginning, you're not quite there yet.
Right. And that was my next. But that kind of made me think of like Tenet does that. I'm trying to look at your list here. I think Inception does that a little bit.
Memento definitely does it.
Yeah, and I think also with Memento, by the end of Memento, or at least the third act, I think the same thing with this movie. Everything wraps up so incredibly well. So plot twist, the bomb drops. But after the bomb drops, I was on the edge of my seat for the rest of and it was just talking.
Yeah.
They're just talking the whole time. But it was anyway. Overall, the acting was great. The only very minute problem I have is I don't know how big of a fan I am of Ludwig Göransson, the composer.
You son of a bitch.
I know he just won the Oscar. Well, part of it is because he just won the Oscar for
Dune?
No, the other one. That was Hans Zimmer. He won for
That's why I was
All Quiet on the
confused.
Western Front.
I was like, Dune definitely won score. I
And
thought
it did. Yeah.
Okay.
That was 2 years ago.
Oh,
Babylon, in my opinion, Babylon should have
won it.
absolutely won Best Score. And
So you're just salty.
Well, and Ludwig, he does music like Hans Zimmer. It's all very Hans Zimmer-esque. And if I want to listen to Hans Zimmer, I'll go listen to Hans Zimmer. But that's not even really my issue. That's my pettiness. My issue with the movie in its regard is I thought, and Easton, you and I kind of talked about this a little bit off air. I thought the music was almost suffocating with how much is in it. When it's good, it's great. But when it's fine, it almost pulled me out of it.
Where on the opposite end of the spectrum, I thought the music was so empowering and overbearing that it was like purposeful, and I liked that about it because it made you extremely uneasy throughout when it like is like it communicated that like
Kind of that inner tension.
yeah, and the weight of everything that's going on, and like you just have like discussions happening a lot, but if you have this music that's just heavy over the top, it feels like it put the weight on top, which is what it needed.
Yeah.
Because this is obviously a very heavy story.
Right.
That's masked in a lot of different, moving parts, and just like I was talking about this with a friend. This like Nolan usually has something in his movies that moves the story along to keep you engaged, action-wise. This movie is the first one since his early days that doesn't have that. There is no action in this at all. There's nothing that moves you from one scene to the next to keep you engaged in a visual. Well, I mean, there's a lot of visual stuff, but like visual, like action stuff that like you're waiting
There's
for this
no
piece.
like Inception.
There's no build up to this piece of action to see if they can get past this moment, and then you get some talking, you get some explanation, and then you get some build up and some tension to
Right.
get to the action piece again. Like there's no tension there. So he has to find other ways of doing that, and I think the overbearing music was a way to do it, which is also why I absolutely recommend everybody should go watch this either in IMAX or in Dolby.
Yeah.
I always suggest Dolby because I'm kind of a sound guru. I love I love sound in films when they're good. Like so I would choose Dolby over IMAX, but I know IMAX still has good sound, and obviously the picture is fantastic.
Yeah.
And if you're somehow lucky enough to get a 70 millimeter watch of it, then good for you, and go do that, of course.
Bring your welder's glass.
Yeah. I was, a lot of people have found out that there's not a lot of 70 millimeter IMAXs.
That can handle the 11-mile.
Because there's only like, I can't remember the exact number, but obviously like Regal, there's different places that all have IMAX, but like ours is Regal, but it's not a 70 millimeter IMAX. Those are only select places, and like you have to be in Dallas, New York,
Big cities.
Yeah. Las Vegas may have some. California's got obviously a bunch of them. But yeah, a lot of people were upset that they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to watch it in 70 millimeter." I'm like,
Wait a minute, what?
No, you're not.
No,
you're watching it in Nebraska. Okay, yours does not have. And we're watching it in Wichita. We don't have a 70 millimeter, nor should we. I was surprised Kansas City didn't, but yeah, I think St. Louis is the closest one.
Okay.
Maybe Dallas, I guess is. I think St. Louis is a little closer than Dallas, but I don't know. I know that there's one like within a 7-hour drive, but I definitely wasn't doing that.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. Sorry, that was we were just talking about sound.
Yeah. No, and those are really my two big gripes. Are just not, and they're not even gripes. They're just like personal things. I think the first act is a little confusing, but that doesn't last very long. And then I said my thoughts on the music. So yeah. More than that.
Josh, just general thoughts without spoiling anything. I mean, I guess this is a historic movie that kind of is already spoiled if you know anything about the atomic bomb, but still hold some stuff.
I think there's a lot that can be discovered without knowing. Obviously, the big point. The bomb's going to get built. You know that the whole time, and even in that moment, you're still like, "What's going to happen?"
Yeah,
right.
I really, really liked this a lot. I can't remember if you mentioned it or not, but I am a history teacher.
Yep.
And so, like history, I've taught American history. I've talked a little bit about Oppenheimer. I mean, at the high school level, we don't really get beyond like this is the guy who built it, and then we talk about the process of like the bombing and choosing.
You don't bring up that he might have been a communist.
Yeah, I mean, you can, but it doesn't tend to be relevant.
Yeah.
Sure.
Maybe you can tie it back into your Red Scare stuff and talk about, which this movie does really well.
Yeah.
But I just, and I actually sometimes have a hard time watching historical movies because I'm looking for the inaccuracies. I'm looking for the like propagandized storytelling, and there was definitely worries I had about how they'd handle all that in this movie because like that question of should or should not the bomb's been used against Japan is like it's a debate that happens in every classroom, and a lot of people have really strict opinions about it. And I think that this movie handled it really well as far as like the military perspective was at least let's use these for reason A or B. Whether you want to say it was to force a surrender from Japan, whether you say it was to scare the Russians, whatever you want to say. I thought they did a really good job handling that.
Yeah.
And
They
showing
handled them-
Oppenheimer's perspective, showing the military perspective, all of that. I thought that was really, really good.
They did do a great job of like the military was obviously very heavily involved in this entire story because they funded the entire thing, but they did a great job of not making this a military propaganda movie, which is what a lot of people were scared of.
Yeah, I was definitely worried about that.
Yeah.
And Matt Damon does a great job portraying both that of like this I think he's a general or something, being that general, but also
going to be.
Yeah, but then also being the liaison to Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I think, I mean, if you watch this and your takeaway is that it's like a pro-nuclear war movie, then you've missed the point.
Yeah,
Yes.
100%.
You've missed the entire point of the film.
Like, it does not glorify that process in any way.
It even doesn't even glorify Oppenheimer.
No.
It's just telling the moral ambiguity of this person and how insanely complex his life and how he got to that point, his reasonings and how he emotionally changed throughout the process of everything.
Yeah.
And how how messed up he like
I thought
kind
they
of
did
was
a
and
good
wasn't.
job not painting him as a hero.
Yeah.
And I'm not an Oppenheimer expert. Like, I haven't read American Prometheus, which is the book that this movie is largely based on.
There's a quote from that in the beginning, isn't there? Doesn't it open with a
well, the myth of Prometheus.
Prometheus stole the fire from the gods or something. Yeah.
Which people in the title of that book obviously compare Oppenheimer to Prometheus for creating the nuclear bomb. Obviously, there's always room for improvement in history, but like I thought they did a really good job telling the story they wanted to tell, including the things they wanted to tell. There's that funny nitpick people say on Twitter about the 50-star flag being in a scene.
Yeah,
right.
But like, sorry, props director, that sucks.
Yeah, right.
I was like really hoping that like it was just like misread, and it's
What would
straight
we
up
have
50.
What would we have not had yet?
Hawaii and Alaska.
Oh, Hawaii and Alaska. I thought it was just one of those.
No,
Yeah, I think we got them pretty much at the same time.
there's a little bit of a gap, but
Yeah. But the flag changed only once.
no, it changed twice.
Really?
Yeah, it was a 49-star flag.
Okay.
It wasn't for super long.
Well, it wasn't on the wiki. When
That's
I was
really what it
looking
was.
up.
We just
At least I
needed-
think so. I mean, like,
I just looked on wiki and I was like, okay, when were the kind of like changes? Because I just Googled it when I saw the
Yeah.
tweet, and like no source was really telling me anything other than Wiki.
Yeah.
Like-
I mean, I think I'm not an expert on flag renditions, but
Yeah.
I do know that once you know how to spot the 50-star flag, it's really easy, and that's definitely not a 50-star flag. Or it is a 50-star flag.
Well,
it shouldn't be.
Well, it's symmetrical.
The 48 and the 50 look extremely similar. It's the 46 or whatever that looks much different. Because the 48, they both have the diagonal things.
Do they? I thought 48 was on the grid.
No.
And
That's
then
what
50 's
was
on the windows, where it's like long line of stars, short line of stars, long line of stars.
they both have that cross. I mean, this is just what I looked up
Okay.
yesterday when I saw the tweet.
Yeah.
But you can tell because on the far side of it, you can just count, and if there's 5,
That's true. Yeah.
there's 50, and if there's 4, then it's the 48.
Okay.
And there was 5. So it was still the 55. But I did see people saying, "Oh, they should have been grid, like it would have been the grids." I mean, I guess I have Google right here.
There's the question of like, should there have been more Japanese perspective? And at first I was thinking probably, but I think as I've reflected more and more, I think that wasn't the purpose of this film. Like, without making it a spoiler, like this movie's almost not about the atomic bomb in a lot of ways. I mean, it is.
Yeah, and to give a very minor spoiler, I mean, we are quoting history.
Yeah.
I mean, or at least history as it has been presented to us.
Yeah.
I think, Oppenheimer never watches he listens to a news broadcast, but he never watches a news broadcast. He never, and after his involvement with Los Alamos, he kind of just goes into his that moral ambiguity of did I do the right thing? And I think it's represented to us to kind of feel for Japan at that time in terms of the trucks taking the bombs away. Because it's like Oppenheimer did it, and I think you can kind of tell in his mind, at least from the movie perspective, is did I do the right, I thought we were going to run more tests. I thought there's more to do here. And they were like, nope, it works. See you later.
Yeah.
And then that was just kind of that. And so I think you're supposed to be, I think maybe that's where that desire is coming from, is they're like, well, we want to see the fruition of that. But you kind of just have to be in the shoes of Oppenheimer and be like, yeah, your life's work was just taken away, potentially to be used to kill thousands or millions of people. Or
Not potentially.
Well, in his mind, potentially.
Yeah. And peek behind the curtain, real Oppenheimer was not against using the bombs. He was kind of at least I skimmed Cynical Historian on YouTube, Cypher. He's a really good historian on YouTube for looking at this kind of stuff. He does a lot of stuff about movies. Oppenheimer was pro using the bomb to show that it was this powerful thing that probably shouldn't be done again. Kind of like mustard gas in World War I, that it'd be like this shock and awe, and then everyone would go, okay, that's a really bad idea. Let's not do that again. World War II is over. Peace on Earth. And then obviously it didn't play out that way.
I think the movie shows that pretty well, though, because he's actively trying to get on the Manhattan Project because he wants to use it on the Germans because he thinks it's going to save all of the Jews and the Gypsies and everybody that's getting slaughtered. I do. So, 48 is a grit. Is a straight. It's 49 that also. That's what turns into the off, and then 50 is also off. So 46 stars is kind of a off grid thing, and then 48 is a straight up grid, and then 49 and 50 are.
Gotcha. But also, who cares?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was about to say, we're talking a lot about the flag here.
It was a funny thing.
People find things.
No,
they'll always find things.
I really love that this story was not like a military story. Like the military is there, and they're this kind of omnipresent thing, which is what they were to the scientists. But this is a story about Oppenheimer. It's a story about the Red Scare, and the role that his leftist background, even if it wasn't fully committed, affected his life and his professional life, which is very accurate to the time, and not something that's always recognized about what it meant to be in that political wing at that time. And I think that's really cool. I mean, the sound is incredible. The visuals are, we all saw it. It's stunning. I really, really like this a lot.
Yeah. It's much more of a college classroom scientist movie than it is a military movie, and that's what makes it completely different than
and like political thriller.
Yeah. No, it's a very very political movie that does talk about communism and unions and how opposed government people were and how scared they were of that influence during that time. It's like if you had the possibility of being red, meaning communism red, then they didn't want you anything to do with the government because they thought you would be a spy
or any position of influence. I mean,
Yeah.
Hollywood, anything.
Yeah. So I'll kind of give my general thoughts here. I thought this was absolutely fantastic. From the first 5 minutes, I was already enthralled and enwrapped with what I was seeing on screen. I do think the first, a lot of people have said the first hour is slow and kind of a little boring. I found it to be the complete opposite of learning how Oppenheimer kind of rose into the position that he was. I thought was extremely interesting, and how morally complex his character was, with going in and out of different political parties and like going to them and supporting them but not being a part of them. I think is extremely it's a good thing to show, because there's like we need more people to have ideological like individual
ideologies.
Where like you can support that other people talking about their beliefs and having their ideas, and also maybe having some of those ideas too, but not being a part of the party, because whatever party that is, because you don't believe in everything that they stand for. You just have ideas that align with some of them, so you're going to be friends with them because you have ideas that match. I think that's a very important thing to see, specifically now because of our political climate and people jumping to one side or the other. And I think individual thought and having ideas and whatever is good. And I think they showed him with that very well, and how opposed people were to him because of that. They wanted him to either be one thing or not. The teachers wanted him to be this thing, and he wasn't going to do it. And then the students, wanted him to join the party, and he's like, no, I just, I'm going to think the way I think. Brother, I guess you can join, but I'm not going to. And
what was known as a fellow traveler.
Yeah.
That's what they called that.
I thought all of that was extremely interesting. And I loved what they did with the visuals, to kind of show the I just took it as I couldn't explain what I was feeling, but it was making me feel something that I was feeling like I was on par with Oppenheimer during that time. Because I was kind of during his early ages when he was trying to figure himself out, and it would just cut to these weird visuals of, some of it was like the atomics breaking and stuff, but other of it was like this blue
little ring.
Yeah.
thing.
Cool.
And I didn't understand it, but it made me feel an emotion that I felt connected to Oppenheimer at that time with it. And so I was extremely enthralled by those scenes, even though I didn't understand what I was like, why I was feeling that way, to the point where like I almost kind of want an extended version of this, even though it's already 3 hours, because I feel like they had to have cut some of the his upbringing, because that's not that's not the I don't want to say it's not the point, but like it's not the focus of the film. The emotion of the last 2 hours is what the point is, and it's showing what happened to Oppenheimer and what Oppenheimer did, and his moral change and his emotional change throughout the process, and all of that is much more important than what he did in the beginning of his life. But I was very interested by it, because we kind of got him in a classroom, a theoretical physicist that like I guess was kind of struggling. And then he just automatically is like a renowned theoretical physicist. We didn't get kind of like where that process went, because I don't think it was important to the story, but I'm just interested in, and I'm sure they shot stuff, so I'd be interested.
And I could be wrong, but I think that kind of is supposed to highlight the fact that like that field developed really fast at that time.
Yeah, that's
Like, it
That's
kinda
very
starts-
true.
And
And
I don't know the full history of it.
And there's a line he says where they're like, "Well,
Why would you go to
Why would you go to
America?
America?" Yeah,
They have none. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'll create it. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, and so I think that's like they needed someone, and he was there.
Yeah, but I just also mean like in the UK. I think that's where he was. Europe, UK.
he was
somewhere.
in the UK, he was in the Netherlands, he was in
Yeah.
other places.
But in those areas, he was a renowned physicist there.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere. Like he went from he was studying at Cambridge. I can't remember. Yeah.
It was with the apple and all that, yeah.
Yeah. Also, I loved that scene.
True story.
Because I think it showed like he has this capacity to do evil, but he has a moral qualm with it. So he's not full psychopath, but he kind of has some tendencies and has the ability to do it, but he has a moral conscience to stop him from doing it. So I thought I really liked that scene.
Well, we've all been there, injecting cyanide into an apple. So.
Yeah, speak for yourself. But yeah, I did find that scene also to be really funny. That he slaps the apple and throws it in the trash, and like nobody really.
They're just like, okay.
Yeah.
Well, he says it. Does he say there's worms or something like that, or worms got in it?
Does he say that? It happens fast.
Yeah, I don't remember him saying anything, but even then, that would still be.
Yeah.
And in real life, there was a lot more repercussions for that moment.
Really?
Yeah, his father actually had to go and like kind of plead his case. And I think there is some debate over whether or not he truly tried to poison, but like we know that his dad went to the school and was like, "Hey, Oppie's going through a tough time," and he went to like some counseling and some psychotherapy at the time, and so
Well, he wasn't eating or sleeping, so that's not good.
yeah, so he didn't get off
Psychotherapy
Get some
in the
insomnia.
40
1940s,
scot-free.
huh?
Oh yeah,
It's just,
Yeah. And then yeah, I just very much like that first hour, even though it's not. And I just wanted to highlight it because it's not something that's being, not a lot of people have said that that's a piece that they like, and it was one that I did.
yeah.
But I think I was like the first hour's great, and the last hour. I mean, the whole movie's great, but like the first hour I very much liked, and then after the bomb is dropped, testing bomb, I should say. All of that, I thought that was the end of the movie.
Yeah.
When I went into the movie, I thought the bomb being dropped, the test bomb being dropped, and then I thought they would probably reference the fact that it got actually dropped. But I thought that was going to be like the end, and it wasn't. We had a whole other. I guess I shouldn't spoil too much, but there's a whole hour of stuff after that, and all of the aftermath. Personally, it was a personal aftermath. They didn't. I mean, they did kind of reference the aftermath of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, but it wasn't like they don't show it. They don't go to it. I know that some people have said that's something they dislike, is that they don't show the legitimate aftermath. But we see the aftermath that it took on Oppenheimer, which I think is important.
You feel the
because,
devastation in a unique way.
yes, they do have a scene that I won't say too much about, but they have a scene to relay the devastation that it did, not only on. I think it shows you, or it doesn't actually show you, but through the scene, it tells you what it actually did, and then it also shows what it did to the people that made the bomb, and how it, like, just seeing what it actually did changed them as well. Because I think a lot of, not all of them, but I think I think it shows that a lot of the scientists were almost doing it out of just academic wonder. Trying to see if this is something that they could possibly do.
well, yeah, and it's almost like they're more concerned with the splitting of because isn't that what it is? That it splits an atom? Isn't that how the bomb works, or something like that?
That's definitely a piece of
Or
it.
part of
Yeah.
it.
The fission bomb does. Yeah.
Well, it's like
In the beginning,
the
they
explosion
talk.
is the byproduct.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like-
they talk about earlier in the movie that the Russians split the atom pretty early in the movie, and they were like, "That's impossible. You can't split an atom." And then that's what kind of gets all of that going. I don't know if that's. I mean, is the atomic bomb? I assume it has something to do with.
Yeah.
Well, and it's the hydrogen bomb, right?
The hydrogen bomb's the
That's
second
the later
one.
development.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
That's the bigger one. That the
That they mentioned.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that guy wants to
He
do,
wants to
but
make it, yeah.
I think they just one, they didn't think it was possible, and they needed something that they knew was both theoretically possible and practically possible. And so they were like, we can't spend 2.5 years making something that we don't even think is theoretically possible.
Yeah.
And end up it was. And what Oppenheimer says in this movie is it also was not needed. There was no reason to have a hydrogen bomb and drop it on these cities because it would have done way more than what they needed to do.
Yeah, which I think kind of gets into his belief was like it wasn't about proliferation yet, and that's not what he wanted.
Yeah.
But
we haven't talked a lot about Florence Pugh and Emily Blunt especially are both very good in this.
Hot take, I did not think Emily Blunt was all that great until the one scene that she took over.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was not a big fan of. I think it may have been a piece of. I wasn't a big fan of her character, but I do think that was obviously intentional and probably true that her wife or his wife did have some severe mental issues that she was dealing throughout the entirety of her life, and I think it showcased it in a unique way.
Yeah.
She's also dealing with him.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like she's going through a mental crisis because of everything that she's being put through, and her husband died, and then she got a divorce, and he cheated, and there's a bunch of different stuff. But I also I was just saying I've seen a lot of people talk about Emily Blunt in this movie, and I thought she was not the best, but she does steal one scene, and she does fantastic in it. She drops.
I think there's another scene. I don't want to. It's still spoilery, but there's another scene I think she does really well in too.
Yeah, you can definitely.
I remember there being some speculation about Florence Pugh there being a sex scene that was
15 minutes long.
Yeah,
that's what everybody was saying.
Yeah, because I didn't. Okay, yeah, because I didn't get that. I thought it was like.
I always thought it was a joke.
Okay, cool. Good.
No,
I thought I was missing something when I saw the movie, but
no, it was just 5 minutes.
Yeah,
and they were having sex, but also talking, and so it kind of dragged out the scene a little bit, but it was still only maybe.
And then they're reading poetry.
Yeah,
not poetry, religious scriptures.
Oh yeah.
Hey, whatever turns the lady on, I guess. But then you get another one later on that's probably
that one hit harder. I think it just but.
Because it wasn't a fling anymore.
Well, just how that we're seeing that through Emily Blunt's eyes.
Yeah.
Sorry. But
yeah.
They both did really good. There could have been more women in this movie, which would have been more accurate to the Manhattan Project and Los Alamos, but it was fine. I mean, we do see that one kind of minor female character. I don't know her name, and I don't know the actress either, but she did really well.
She did, yes. Yeah. There's one main female scientist that I did think that was a little weird. Now, I didn't know the historical context of whether or not it was a overly male scientific field.
I mean, it was because everything was, but there were women.
Yeah, and they did show there was only one vocal woman scientist, and there were other ones, but they were just shown at the commune.
Yeah. And it was kind of assumed that they were just wives.
Well, there's a scene specifically where they're talking about the moral ambiguity of what they're doing and trying to talking about shutting it down.
Yeah.
And in that scene, I thought that those were all the scientists, not the husband.
Yeah,
and there were there was a lot bigger mix of.
There was a bigger mix.
Yeah, and I think that there were obviously more scientists than just the core 8 or whatever that we saw. And I thought that was all of them in a room talking about it.
That's just historical movies. You have to compress and compile people. And
yeah.
Speaking of historical movies, so this is Christopher Nolan's third movie based off of an adapted script. The other two being Prestige and Memento.
Oh.
But this is his first biopic. How do we think that he did?
I mean, spoiler alert, fantastic.
I thought he did really well, yeah.
I also think he did really well. I think it's not as strong as his more original properties.
That's fair.
And we're talking by inches.
Yeah.
But,
I just think it's different.
Yeah.
I don't it's just such a different thing to have an entire movie through the focus of a singular character. Mm-hmm. And he almost does that the entire movie. I mean,
yeah. Which is good. I needs to.
An interview with Matt Damon where he talked about when Nolan pitched him the script that they gave him is a first-person script from Oppenheimer's point of view.
Oh, wow.
And he's like, I want the characters to be the supporting role for this. And then I'm sure, obviously, they went back and wrote lines and such. But
sure.
I was like, whoa, that's really cool.
That's neat. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Cillian Murphy was in what 2 hours and 40 minutes of this movie, huh?
Killian.
Oh, Cillian. I know it's Cecilia, so I just kind of put it in there. But he had to have been in 2 hours and 45 minutes of this movie. I mean, he was in every scene.
And they aged
Putting in
really
the work.
well.
Yeah.
He was. And it only had like what $100 million budget, so he didn't make crazy money.
Well, they had to use all that money on explosives.
They did. I mean, I'm sure it was just a lot of dynamite. That's not that expensive.
Well, and
They did
the
not.
Joker from Dark Knight.
Yeah.
They did not drop an atom bomb for
Yeah.
the filming of
Idiots.
this.
Not
As cool as that would have been absolutely devastating and terrible to do. So
Yeah.
they did not do that.
No.
You're not idiots. I'm sorry, but that joke got way out of hand way
did.
fast, and I was like, okay, we reel it back in, people.
It was great as a joke, but then people started not realizing that it was a joke, and that's when it started becoming a problem. When Christopher Nolan had to acknowledge it and say he did not drop a bomb, drop an atomic bomb for the filming of Oppenheimer. Yeah, it went a
Did
little.
you say like I'm flattered, but no.
Yes.
that's not what I would do.
He was like, I'm flattered and scared that you guys believe that I would actually drop an atomic bomb
Look
for
at
this
Michael
movie.
Bay, who like just has a tank in his front yard or did for a period of time or something.
Okay, that's Michael Bay, though.
It's true.
Okay, well, do you guys have any other general thought stuff that you guys want to chat about? Obviously, the cast in this is just through the roof. There are so many stars in this. Even small generals that have 2 minutes of screenplay are Casey Affleck. I mean, it's just wherever you go. I did see a meme that like half of the main characters and the scientists were all like Nickelodeon actors. Yeah.
It was like way more than
Nickelodeon kid actors. It was so funny. But they all killed it. I mean, Josh Peck obviously is the big one.
Yeah.
But there's a ton of Nickelodeon or Nick or whatever, like just kid show actors in this, and they all killed it. I don't like.
Yeah. So many small roles that were just like you have they said like 2 minutes of screen time and you're gonna be perfect.
Yeah.
And of course, Robert Downey Jr. was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damon
And
did great.
Alan.
And I love that I think he said something like, this is one of the best roles I've ever played, or he said something like, this is the best role. And people were like, well, what about Iron Man? I was like, shut up about Iron Man. Let him speak.
Yeah. And Alden.
I can
he
oh man,
was just. I mean, he's getting the praise he deserves off of this movie. I mean, he only had probably 7 minutes of screen time throughout all the stuff, but he was just fantastic in every single one of them.
Yeah.
Just showing Robert Downey Jr. up, which was great. And it brought a lot of the world, showing that he's got acting prowess.
he got chops.
And Solo isn't his fault. As much, and I love Solo, and I liked him in it, but that like the people that didn't, they all just kind of like Hollywood kind of blacklisted him from that movie when he was not the fault, like he was not the reason why that movie did not do good. And I do think it's kind of funny that obviously Woody Harrelson didn't get blacklisted, but he had much more of a career before that movie.
Yeah.
But it was really just him that got blacklisted. I mean,
He was
even
the
Emily.
unknown. He was the unknown.
Yeah, well, even Emily Clark still got stuff after that too. But
Well, and not to get too far into Solo, but like, and I feel like I remember there being talks about like the script was a lot of improvisation, and he was the only one that really struggled with it. Like everybody else was able to kind of get into that role easily, and he was the only one that was like, I need words to say.
And he's taking over that super iconic role. I mean, like,
Yeah.
there was all that debate of whether they should have just DH Harrison Ford for the whole movie. Which
man.
was, I mean, I think we've all seen how that turned out with Destiny.
I didn't watch Dial of Destiny, and I don't know if I will.
No, I haven't either. But
Okay.
You know what? It's not terrible if you don't look at just his face, because everything is CG in those scenes.
that's true.
So
True.
That's
It's
also
not the Flash.
That's also just a problem with Hollywood right now, because there's a big discussion about. I mean, going a little off topic, and then we'll do recommendations, and then we'll go to spoilers. But big talk about right now, or Twitter discourse about movie budgets.
Oh,
and
yeah.
how Barbie and Oppenheimer both had around $100 million budgets, and they've already blown through that in the box office. I think worldwide Barbie was at 335 at box office weekend, and Oppenheimer was at 175, which is the biggest dual movie premiere in movie history, by the way, official.
I believe that.
Yeah, it's the biggest double feature. There's been bigger weekends where two movies made more money, but they weren't their first weekend.
Gotcha.
It was like, what was it? Like Frozen 2 and something else. Yeah. Like where like it had the staying power.
And that's with one of these movies being a 3-hour
Three-hour
rated R
biopic. Yeah.
Like
truly amazing,
nuts.
Christopher Nolan to get people in,
like, yes,
in seats.
Obviously Barbie, huge brand. Oh, that's fine. But like just huge props to Nolan. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think obviously a bit of it does have to do with the whole meme of it.
Oh yeah, the Barbenheimer helps.
I think that helped quite a bit, but I think also what helped is just they made two good movies.
Yeah.
And we said this in the Barbie episode. I'll say it again here. It was shitty what Warner Brother did.
Yeah.
Warner Brother did release Barbie on the release that Christopher Nolan set for Oppenheimer because Christopher Nolan left Warner Brothers as their distributor or whatever.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
Allegedly they did this.
Yeah, I mean, it seems pretty obvious,
I'm
but
trying to cover your tracks here. Bro.
yeah. We talk speculation.
That's true.
But yes, it is all speculation, but it seems to be that's the case, and it seemed like a pretty crappy thing to do.
Yeah.
But I think it helps. I think it helped both of their films, though.
Oh, absolutely.
Indirectly, I don't think that was their purpose. I don't think they meant to have Christopher Nolan make more money on their movie, but I think it helped. Indirectly, it did end up helping both of their movies get seen and make a lot of money and make everybody say that the movies are back for 3 weeks until people stop going to the movie theater again. So, how was your guys' movie theater experience for these? I didn't ask for Barbie, but
That was great for both.
Okay, Oppenheimer was dead silent.
Yeah,
there was
really
there was
wasn't
not a
any noise.
single peep, and I loved it.
I was
mean,
really worried that we'd have like the MCU theater.
yeah.
For two moments. One is Albert Einstein,
Mm.
and the other one is I won't spoil, but it's a name drop.
Okay.
Later in the movie, and you think you know what I'm talking
Oh, yeah. I was definitely like,
Yeah.
oh, hello.
about. Yeah. And I was like, are people gonna make it? Okay. they're
Yeah.
not gonna.
No, I know what you're talking about. Yeah. No, and they were. I think everybody was just like in awe of what they were seeing on screen, and like, and it does take a little bit of head like to figure out what's going on and kind of keep track of all the different storylines. So you kind of have to keep your head on you, and so I think that also shut people up.
No, I think for both movies, I had a really good theater experience.
Our Barbie experience, our theater was a little bit more yippee.
Yeah, I mean, mine was a little, but not bad.
I mean, I don't mind the laughing and stuff, but there were people that definitely were like, there were some chatting every once in a while and stuff like that. But it wasn't as bad as I've had during some screenings. Trevor,
The biggest thing in the Barbie experience was they kept making these inside jokes that like people that do like stereotypical people would do. I guess like they talk about watching the BBC version of a show.
Oh yeah.
And I think Colin Farrell was on screen for a second, and people busted a gut during that part. Three things happened in Oppenheimer.
Yeah,
and
I knew this was coming up because you told me.
One of them was the dude next to me was asleep for probably a full hour, and interspersed, but he was like snoring. And it was one, and I was like, I could wake him up, but I don't want him to like freak out that I touched him.
Yeah.
And he's already ruining that. Like he already probably spent so much money on ticket. He's ruining this for himself. He's gonna have to come back and see this again. So I'm not even gonna worry about it. And then when the bomb dropped, if you want, I guess if this is a minor spoiler too, but it's also just how physics and sound
Bombs
works.
work.
Yeah. It's silent when the bomb drops and you just hear breathing. So it was dead silent when you see the screen light up, and then I heard somebody go, "Oh," and
That's
then
what it does.
yeah, and then down to my left, when the sound does finally hit and all the wind from it hits and everybody gets kind of knocked over, some amateur demolitions expert down on the left was like, "That's not how blowback works," saying it like loud enough that people around him would hear. Anyway, so those are the three things that were my theater experience. But
I'll say my theater experience for both movies here. There's a joke that I swear to God, the only person in the theater who laughed at.
Okay.
And I was like, I'm such a dork. In Oppenheimer, there's a moment where he's being confronted by, this again, we're starting to get into the minor spoilers here, but he's confronted about his like kind of left-leaning past. and like being accused of potentially being a communist, and he's like, well, I'm a New Deal Democrat. And I was like, ha! I was like, oh, nobody laughed at that besides me. And then in Barbie, there's a moment where, I think this is in the trailer, so I don't think this is that big of a spoiler, but the little girl calls her a fascist.
Oh, yeah.
And Barbie's like, I don't control the trains. I was like, oh my God, that's so good.
Speaking of that interrogator, Jason Clarke is another name.
Very minor role and it's super.
Oh,
I mean,
really?
he's doing it correctly.
Yeah.
Like you want to
yeah,
kick his
yeah.
ass because he's such an asshole.
Yeah.
But like, no, he's doing it. He's doing it right.
Yeah.
It's just like you fuck off, you know. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll do recommendations real quick. I think it'll be pretty obvious. I feel like most of the movies recently have been pretty obvious what we're gonna say here,
Right.
but we always do it for you just so you can know which one of us recommend going and watching this movie. And it is a recommendation of whether or not to go watch it in the theaters or wait for it to come out or whatnot. So you can use that information as you'd like. Trevor?
yes. I would say if you're interested at all, you should go see the theater experience.
Josh?
Absolutely. Go see it in the theater, especially if you have any kind of Dolby or IMAX, even if it's the Limax, like the not real. It's going to be incredible.
Yeah. It's still an IMAX theater.
Yeah.
It's still a ginormous screen. It's just not on 70 millimeter film.
Yeah, and like we said, the sound is so important. If you can see it in a Dolby theater with the crazy sound,
Yeah.
I almost bring earplugs. Like it gets pretty loud at some points. Like I almost plugged my ears a couple times.
And I think Tristen was on that border too.
Yeah,
I
Bethany
embrace
did.
it.
Bethany did. She was like,
I was
nope.
also hungover,
Oh God.
and so I kind of had to just accept my fate. And it was mainly a stomach hangover, but I did have a slight
still.
headache going in. So yeah, that was. I'm excited to watch the movie not hungover, so I can kind of feel it non-sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't get hungover all that often. But yeah, it was interesting trying to fight back the feeling of like I wasn't going to throw up, but like that stomach was always just like feeling
Yeah.
off.
No, it's just an unsettled feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the slight headache that, every once in a while I'd have to bear through I mean, I don't know. It's just, thankfully it wasn't like sound sensitive or else I would have been like,
That would have been tough.
I might have had to walk out or no, we were like not front row, like we were on the upper deck,
In the upper deck, yeah.
on the front row, smack dab in the middle. We were the first two people to buy tickets for the showing.
Dang.
Yeah.
We got us kind of late, and we still got pretty good seats. I mean, we were the back row behind you, but only like one to the left.
Yeah. It was like, as long as you're kind of in the
That general center.
general center, yeah, you'll be good. I don't like sitting at the bottom, but I've done it.
I've never done it
Okay.
in that theater.
Yeah, I've only done it like once or twice. It's not the best. Their smaller theaters actually aren't too bad if you're in the front because they recline farther back.
That's true.
So you can actually like really just
I wouldn't want to do that Dolby.
no.
I mean, it's not IMAX, but it's a big screen.
It's
And it's high up.
It's still a big screen, yeah. Okay, well that's all of our recommendations and more thoughts on Oppenheimer. We're gonna do spoiler part of this review after our short little break. So if you've seen the movie and want to hear all those, go ahead and pause and come back for the spoiler part of the review. All right, we're back.
We're back.
After that short little break, and now we're getting into spoilers. So
Kaboom.
there's a bomb
Yeah.
that goes off. It's very large.
Yes.
It's very cool too.
That's cool.
I mean, the bomb itself probably wasn't very
gorgeous.
cool, but it was shot very well. It communicated the weight of it very well, and you saw it on everybody's face. The camera work of it. I mean, it felt like it showed the bomb for like a minute.
It felt like
Yeah.
it was a while. Yeah.
which was good.
Yeah, no, I agree. I was curious if there was going to be a mushroom cloud or not because it was filming for so long, and at the very end,
Yeah.
the mushroom. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure atomic bombs have mushroom clouds.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I think it's just once you reach a certain level of dynamite.
Yeah.
I think you'll get a mushroom.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
you can get a mushroom without atomic bomb. It just has to be a big bomb.
like an M80 or
I don't know. Probably not that.
okay. So, oh no,
Oh no.
I already forgot. I was about to say the one thing that I
You're saving for spoilers.
that I disliked.
Oh.
But I'll have to rethink of it. I had it right before we started talking about the mushroom cloud.
Well, I can say my
Yeah.
thing real quick. The other scene I thought Emily Blunt was really good in was when Oppenheimer comes home and she's waiting for him and the baby's crying and she wants to like get frisky or something and he's like, shouldn't you go to the baby? And then she like, because she's obviously drunk, but
Yeah.
I think she portrayed that very well.
Yeah. One thing I thought was weird, like, okay, so we all know, and it's become, I think, recently become really big. People knowing about the "Now I am become death to destroy your worlds" thing, in the Bada, this Hindu scripture thing. And so we all know what's going to come up in the movie, and the moment that it comes up for the first time
Was interesting.
Is in the sex scene, and unless that's a true story, which I don't think it is, I could be wrong. That just felt like a really weird time to introduce what is a very heavy and very important line.
Although I think, I was telling Easton this too, I think the audio from that scene, the breathing, not the talking, but the breathing and then him delivering that line, I think that's what's playing when the bomb drops.
Oh.
I'm pretty sure it says it again in that moment.
It does,
Okay.
yeah.
But it's like that same clip. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's supposed to be a connection to like because she is a full-on communist, isn't she?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I wonder if maybe it's like, oh, so if like communism is the Red Scare and this bomb is fairly red to orange and it's scary.
Maybe.
It's the orange scare.
Yeah.
No, I didn't really think much of it. I think maybe it was just a way to like be in his personal chambers and get the fact that like he reads these scriptures and he knows them and can read them like in their
I think
language.
it would have been one thing if like it was like after the fact and then like cuddling or whatever.
Yeah.
But like it is during the moment. And I was
Or
like, this is something.
Yeah.
Well,
it might
no-
also be trying to connect like
Creation with death.
or yeah.
Oh.
Or just how like crazy, he kind of is.
That's true, yeah.
And like arousal. I mean, I don't think he gets aroused by, blowing things up, but just kind of like how much of a, an adrenaline junkie in a different way
Yeah, okay.
through intellectual,
I mean, they definitely
stuff.
play it off like it's kind of a kinky moment for
Yeah.
the two of them.
Yeah.
And I wonder if also maybe they just couldn't find a way to like have him say that in the moment
Yeah.
and have it not be cheesy or have it not be like cringy.
Yeah.
And so maybe they thought it'd be better to do it as a thought.
Yeah.
Fair.
Oh, yeah. Well, the bomb's dropped.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I do think in the sex scene, I feel like it fit because I'm like, she gets up and is like, I think it's trying to be like a little sexy stop during the middle of sex
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
And then she picks up the book and then she's like, you can read this. And then it's kind of like an arousal out of his intellectual ability to be able
Sure.
to like
Yeah.
how smart he actually is. And then says to read it. And that just happens to be the line.
Yeah.
So like, I get where like, this is an important line and you decide to use it in this context.
Yeah.
It made sense for the scene, but as a movie, it's like,
Yeah.
it-
And
maybe you could have found
to
a,
establish that he knows the quote and
Yeah.
read the book. I was just like, this is not how I thought it was going to go. I thought it
Yeah.
would just be him studying or something.
yeah. Yeah. Well, he definitely doesn't have any studying scenes.
No.
Yeah, he has some teaching scenes and stuff, which
yeah.
they blow through pretty quick, which I don't think is a bad thing.
He has
No,
some
you don't.
union forming scenes.
Yeah.
Lots of union forming
Yeah.
scenes.
The use of sound in this movie is so good. Like, there's this like, shum 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 shum,
Oh, yeah.
like building sound the whole time, and you're thinking like it's just like marching soldiers or like what? It's this horrifying sound. It's really
Yeah.
scary. And then when you finally reveal that it's like people celebrating in the gym after the bomb went off,
Mhm.
and he's just so scared. I was like, oh, this is so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that scene is being held as the best scene of
Yeah,
the
I mean,
movie.
it's like
Yeah.
horrific, and it's just people celebrating.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, did you guys get the horror scene in the movie?
Do we get it?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
There's a lot of people are talking about how this movie has a like a horror aspect to it.
Oh, yeah.
And it's in one scene specifically.
That's the gym scene, isn't it? That he was talking about?
I think there's a different lane. I do think a lot of people attach the horror to that, but it has to do with Florence Pugh. when she kills herself.
Oh, that
Oh,
is
yeah,
freaky.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's a black glove that pushes her head
Yeah.
under.
And there is some conspiracy around Jean. I wrote it down. Tatlock. Jean Tatlock. The real woman. Her suicide. There is a conspiracy around it. I mean, the intelligence agencies were not above killing people they thought were a threat at that time.
Well, they're still not, are they?
You
They
think
definitely weren't. They definitely weren't then. Let's be gone now. And like when I read up on it, like basically the quote was like, "We don't know if this was faked, but if you wanted to fake someone's suicide, this would be a pretty good way to do it."
Yeah. Yeah, and it shows that both in the scene you see a black glove once, push her head down, and then Oppenheimer talks about it to Emily Blunt, and he says like there was a note there, but it wasn't signed.
Yeah,
like there are signs that like this wasn't a suicide,
right?
But like he's like, I don't know. Also, I just lost like kind of a lover, but. Shouldn't have been one, but is.
Yeah.
And you're talking to your wife about why you're upset that you're fling, or not fling, but
Side piece.
side chick. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was trying to be nice and not call her a side piece, but that's kind of what she is.
Yeah.
But it was also her fault. So
You also seem to really care about her too.
yes, yeah. But it's her fault that they weren't a thing because she didn't. She's crazy, and yeah. Wants him and doesn't want him at the same time. So,
yeah.
Yeah, I still can't figure out what.
Oh, no, we were talking before we started recording. Raymond Malek also just shows up out of nowhere in this, and I think does a great job. Because you kind of expect it to be one of the scientists that you've seen before, and I don't know that just the fact that it's a different guy. I don't know. It worked.
Yeah, like he'd been like kind of a fly on the wall. He was in the background a couple scenes, I think.
Oh, okay.
He was, yeah.
But then all of a sudden, he's just like the guy.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's cool.
Yes.
Yeah, he was he was like a secondhand guy to one of the scientists.
Yeah.
And most notably he like tried to get Oppenheimer to sign
That
a petition to not drop the bomb.
Gotcha.
So
I also like that. In the interrogation, they that scene where there's some lens flare and they're asking if he was in favor of dropping the bomb or not. Or so, I don't remember if that's exactly what they asked, but I remember what they do say is they say something like, "Are you trying to tell us that between 1935 and 1939 you changed your mind?" Or something like that. Yeah. And I that whole scene, I thought, in an age where everything is yes or no, like where we by nature of argument and the desire to be right, eliminate a gray area.
And if you said something 5 years ago, you must still believe that thing.
Right.
Like you tweeted this belief 5 years ago, so like obviously this is who you are.
Right.
Like you haven't changed from that. And it's like, no, like
you grow. Yeah.
We all change and have different opinions as we grow.
And so I thought that scene was really relevant to right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, kind of shifting a little bit. Like there's this debate about whether or not the movie really depicts the horrors of both America's kind of like willingness to use the bomb and the bomb itself. Obviously, you do have the gym scene where Oppenheimer visions the people in front of him being annihilated and stepping in a burnt corpse and all that stuff, and that's really good.
And he can't be in the moment, like his
he's fully removed from everything going on.
Yeah, he's disassociated and
You were talking about sound earlier. It'll all of a sudden just come back and it sounds like the bomb dropping again.
Yeah. That scene was perfectly crafted because you have the cheering and then you have an underline of crying that you're just going back and forth. And I believe this is just, what I heard, but I wouldn't. It's just I heard. I don't know if it's actually in there, but I thought I heard. I thought I heard Native American chants, which I also thought would be a cool
it's definitely
piece.
like a chanting feel.
Because they're on Native American land, and there was a piece of what all that did in New Mexico. So
Which we should talk about that just real quick, because I've seen some. We were talking about Japanese discourse earlier. There's been some Hispanic discourse around that too.
Yes, I was going to say that.
They're
Hispanic or Native American?
a little bit of both, but
Okay.
but they were primarily
They
Hispanic.
do acknowledge
farms.
the natives a little in the movie. They
Yeah.
don't acknowledge any.
Okay.
Latino.
Yeah, and I've seen it referred to as Hispanics and Hispanos. I'm not sure which is correct, but yeah, like when they took that land to build the Los Alamos, like they basically were just like, "Hey, here, take this money," and if they didn't take it, they like escorted people at gunpoint and like shot animals. And but there has been some justice there. That and I think 2000 there was a
lawsuit,
settlement.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think they settled for like $10 million or something like that. And so there's been some justice there. Not saying that it was correct or that was right, but
Obviously wasn't correct at the time.
right.
But at least there's been some.
There's been some reparations.
yeah, some correction.
But to talk about the bomb again, 1 second. What I was
Yeah.
going to get to was like the scene that really shows the horror in the not negligence, but like the flippantness of choosing a bombing site. It was that scene where there's the committee of generals and Oppenheimer and several other scientists and stuff, and they're choosing where to actually use the bombs. And the guy is like, "Well, I went on a vacation to Kyoto, so we're not going there."
yeah, we're not going to bomb that place.
Yeah,
It's
which
beautiful.
I don't know if that's true or not. I mean, they definitely did choose to not bomb Kyoto because it was like a very culturally and historically important place. But like, there was a point where the bombs could have been dropped in the water off of Tokyo and not killed anybody, and just been like, "Look at this big bomb we have." But they were like, "Well, we're not doing that."
Look at those radiation poisoning you're gonna
Yeah,
get. But
it would still have been bad, but it would not have been.
They would have
Yeah.
killed the fish though.
Yeah,
that's true.
That's-
Oh, yeah, that would have been. No matter what, just dropping it is bad.
Yeah.
Dropping a bomb like that,
No, that was
negative repercussions.
and they acknowledge the fact that like there's a possibility Japan definitely would have surrendered without it. In fact, many historians argue that the bomb is actually not what made Japan surrender. It was Russia invading Manchuria, among other things. But they get into it. Like this
Yeah.
is by
Yeah.
no means a pro-nuclear weapon.
no,
movie.
no, and it very much states like it puts in there very much that like the war is like Hitler's dead, Germany is basically surrendered, Japan is fleeting and basically almost out of the war. They're still fighting, but they're fairly close to surrendering, and then they drop
There was
the
a
bomb.
possibility of a surrender. Yeah.
Yeah.
People really oversell the Japanese mainland would have fought to the last man, woman, or child. Possibly.
That's what the generals were saying in
Yeah.
the movie. But then
Like,
you hear
but there are people in real life who really try to sell that. And
yeah,
maybe.
who knows?
But
Yeah.
we can't go back on that.
Nope.
Yeah.
Once you drop it,
Yeah.
yep, you
Yeah.
did it. And
Yeah. This really does go to show, I don't know, man. Like, and this isn't so much about the movie, I guess, but how, like, it's wild to me, you as a history teacher, it's wild to me that, like, history teachers just choose their curriculum. Like, and I think as you guys, you probably feel a moral sense of duty to present all sides, but like, you can't cover all of, like, we were even talking about this, how like it's still a question of like, should we have dropped the bomb or not? What were reasons for it? And it's like, you can't get that in a 4-year high school education.
No. I mean, like, and it depends on your school district, your city, your state, all those things. I mean, like,
Sure.
even your school, as to what you choose versus what's given to you and things like that. But history is less about object facts and more about a tool set of navigating the past.
Would you show this in a classroom, do you think?
Well, no.
you might have to take a scene or two out.
Well, I was just curious.
I mean,
There's tits, is what I was
there's-
saying.
there are uncensored breasts. in
Well,
this film.
okay. Let's rephrase that. Let's say you're like teaching a college class. Would you
Which-
show this? Do you think?
Which is funny, I might add. I watched all of Roots in middle school, and let me tell you, there's a lot of tits in Roots. But they weren't sexual, and that scene was very sexual. So
Yeah.
I have a hard time with movies in class because, and this is part of why I tend to not always enjoy historical movies, you can nitpick them to death. I mean, like, if you really sat down and read America Prometheus, read up on Oppenheimer, there's a million things you could point out about this movie.
That's fair.
But I think if you want to talk about the development and how quickly the bomb went from being the scientist job to the military job. I think there's a role for it, but you'd probably have to put some caveats in. I don't know the full level of inaccuracies and things like that, but at a college level or even bits of it in the high school level, there could be an application. Potentially.
Well said.
Potentially.
Yeah. It would also be a good talking point.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
a good thing to have a good discussion
And I'm sure
afterwards.
students will ask about it this year. I'm almost certain.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
But I do think the movie is very clear in its message. So like it obviously has a predetermined like decision of whether or not it was a good thing or not, and all of that. So I was like, I think it would be perfectly fine. But it's like you're also showing a movie that does have a predetermined message that it's trying to send out. It's like, do you want something more objective? Because this is not.
Yeah.
So I have a quick question for you guys because I think I missed something, or maybe I just
Did you like go
didn't.
pee during the middle of this or something?
No, I just
Okay.
It's a 3-hour movie, and
No.
I saw it a week ago.
Well, no, that's you just said
You did
there
see
was
it last
earlier. You said something like, "Did I miss the 15-minute sex scene?" And so I thought you were like physically like.
No, I just meant like the internet made it sound like it was going to be this like
Yeah.
terrible, awful thing
Really
or whatever.
drawn out,
Yeah, and it was just like, I mean,
Yeah. Any other
I've
sex scene?
seen Boogie Nights. I don't know how to get down. No. So Benny Safdie, this guy.
Oh, yeah,
plays Edward Teller.
Teller, yeah.
There's a moment where he goes and he shakes Oppenheimer's hand at the end.
Yeah.
And then his wife refuses to shake his hand.
Yeah.
What is up with that?
Wife didn't like him.
His-
Is that it?
Yeah.
He spoke against him in the meeting.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He said that he wouldn't trust him for another clearance.
Yeah.
I
And
thought
that
maybe
pissed
it
him off.
ran deeper than that.
There was a moment where she confronts Oppenheimer
and she does
about
say
it, and
point
she's
blank that
like-
she doesn't like him. I remember
She's like,
that.
I would have spat in his face. Like he disrespected you. He put you down. That wasn't cool.
Because
Yeah.
early on in the movie, like he's going through this interview almost the entire movie.
Yeah.
Towards somewhere in the beginning or middle-ish, he comes in and he says, I respect Oppenheimer like an insane amount. If he says something, I would do it. And it ends there.
Yeah.
And then it gets back to the interview later and he says, but I would not trust him to do this. I think his moral ambiguity and his moral qualms have stopped him from being the physicist that he needs to be, blah, 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 blah. And then he turns to Oppenheimer afterwards and said, I'm sorry, and walks out.
It was just the handshake thing was just such a like
Disrespect? And it was,
it was just like it was so meaningful, and I was like, does this run deeper than just she doesn't like him? And so
it pays off that previous movie.
yeah. And I think it's just the fact that so many different people, like, that he worked with closely, and, like, were supposed to be his friends, turned on him after the bomb.
I do.
And so I think it was just kind of like trying to showcase that and how he still found a way to respect and like he tried to not take it personally.
Yeah.
And so he didn't fight against it or whatever. And Emily Blunt's character was like, nah, dude, fuck you.
Yeah. I do like Matt Damon's talk about that when they hand him the packet and they're like,
Yeah.
would you recommend it today? He's like, well, no, but I wouldn't recommend any of the scientists that I recommended.
I wanted him to say I wouldn't recommend you either.
Oh,
Because I guarantee everyone in that room shouldn't have clearance either. They've all done things that are highly illegal and shouldn't allow them to have the clearance that they're asking for. But it's just how deep in the government are you, and you'll go through.
And the guy that plays the lawyer, too, everybody, man, the acting in this is
good.
and he does such a good job of like just like I am doing the best I can.
Yeah, it's very well written to show just how awful that scenario was and how much of a trap it was, and showcasing how smart Robert Downey Jr.'s character was in his payback against Oppenheimer, because he knew, and the whole movie shows this too, that if it was an open case, he would win without a shadow of a doubt, because he is a charismatic, like out of nowhere, he's just like the most charismatic guy you've ever seen in your life. And so, yeah, he had to do all these backward things to get him to, I don't really know the significance of not getting his clearance. I think it just means that he's not able to.
It puts him out of work, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It basically makes it where he can't do his job.
Yeah, but I feel like he should have still been able to be like a public speaker on like
Yeah, and I mean, he could probably still be a teacher at a college level and stuff. Oh, you know what, though? He probably isn't able to talk about anything after that if he doesn't have the clearance. I imagine he's not able to, like, even talk about it in discussion.
They kind of, they spend, like, 2 sentences saying why it's important that he doesn't, like, why he doesn't get the clearance. And, like, I just didn't quite understand it. And then, like, when it only gives you 2 sentences, like, and you didn't get it then, and then it moves on to something else. I understood it was important, but I couldn't understand why.
Yeah.
But
man, there's one other one I really want to talk about, but I can't remember what it was.
How about that young up and comer JFK?
Yeah.
the other is that the line you were when you thought
the
people were
name
going to
drop.
freak out?
I definitely smiled. I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
JFK will return. MCU style.
Well, the whole that whole scene with the Robert Downey Jr. all the black and white stuff, where you have the Robert Downey Jr. Trying to, I don't know what the beginning of the court case is really about.
He's being approved for a Senate position.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Or not a Senate, a cabinet position.
Yes. Okay. That's yes. And then, yeah, that whole last scene where, what's his name? You guys already brought him up.
Rami Malek?
Yes. Came in and just dropped the bomb. Yeah, I know. I didn't. I felt like it was too low hanging fruit, but I was already there. Of what Robert Downey Jr. was actually doing throughout his career.
Yeah.
I thought was I like how there was a background story happening the entire time, and you didn't know really what it was. Like there was a battle going on between Robert Downey Jr. and I guess I should say his name instead of just saying Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
Louis Strauss.
Louis Strauss,
Yeah. There was a war going on between Louis Strauss and Oppenheimer without actually knowing that. And then it kind of gets revealed at the very end what was happening behind the lines and why he was having to do this interview and who he was fighting against almost his whole career.
Yeah.
And
And like that Einstein moment they kept returning to with Oppenheimer. That was so cool.
Yeah.
Like slowly revealing the context of what they said until that very ending scene.
Yeah, that ending scene is so I cried 3 times during the movie. And it wasn't like bawling. It was just like teary-eyed.
Yeah.
One, the ending I thought was extremely I don't know. I mean, you just felt the weight and it was disturbing and left you distraught. And so I got teary-eyed there at the scene we've talked about, that everybody's talking about, after the bomb was dropped, in the gym. And then when the bomb actually exploded and we saw Oppenheimer watching it, for some reason that got me too. So, but I also thought that was going to be the end of the movie. So I was like,
all right, cool, we're done.
And I was
like,
there's the wow, this is like the weight. And I think that obviously is supposed to be a big moment.
Yeah,
like we're spending over an hour to get to this moment. Okay. I'll let you say the thing, and I do have the one thing that I don't like about the movie, and I will try to remember it.
One thing, okay. I really like how as soon as the bomb goes off, not like as soon as, but like the next morning when everyone's celebrating, very quickly you see it go from being the scientists' project to the military's property.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I love the way that you almost feel like the helplessness of these, because the whole time you do have the ones who are petitioning against it at one point. You feel them know, like, once we've done this, it's gonna go out of hand.
And Oppenheimer said it multiple times. He was like, "We're just making this. We're not dropping it. We don't choose where it goes. We're giving them
as soon as it was done.
We're giving them obviously insight of what we think because we know what this is going to do. Yeah. But he says throughout the film before it finally gets dropped, that we're just the scientists. We're just making this.
Yeah. We're not soldiers.
We're not. If it we don't choose where it goes. So if it kills people, that's not on us because we did not drop it.
Oh.
And then the second it gets dropped, that's when he starts feeling the weight of it and he realizes what he's done. And that's why he says, he feels the blood on his hand. That president.
Harry Truman. I was about to say, I like that they made Harry Truman an asshole. Yeah. That's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
Good. I don't know.
I believe the real things he said about Oppenheimer in that meeting were actually way meaner.
Oh, really?
Yeah, from what I've heard.
Get this crybaby out of here.
Yeah.
I don't really. Yeah, I have no idea. I don't know anything about Harry Truman.
Well, you had something. Oh, no, you said, did you both say your thing? No, you had the one
Your
thing.
gripe.
I had
Yeah.
something. So
Yeah.
my one gripe on the movie is we spend an hour of the movie, and they keep on saying we've spent 2.5 years, $2 billion getting the materials to drop this atomic bomb, and if we fail the test, like we just wasted this 2.5 years, wasted the $2 billion. They do the test, and just 2 more bombs appear.
Oh, yeah.
So how, like, if it took 2.5 years to get the materials to make the atomic bomb, where did the material for the 2 other bombs show up?
Well, one of them is throughout the movie, Oppenheimer's like filling up those fish bowls. One of them is the other fish bowl.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, no,
I think it was just getting up to the point they had enough for one, but
I thought the 2 fish bowls, one was one for one material and the other was for another material. They need to fill them
they
both
ended up
up.
using both.
Yeah.
I wonder if maybe because there's a scene where he does fill one up. I wonder if maybe we saw it again. If there's like we can see maybe there's some more in the background or something like that.
But if it took 2.5 years to fill up the whole entire bowl, it would take another 2.5 years to get the bowl up again, and then another 2.5. So like,
Yeah.
I think it's a problem on like the movie.
It's a logistical error.
I do believe that. I mean, they built those bombs in that real timeline. So
Yeah, but I feel like I don't know it.
I believe
but
they built enough. They knew they were going to build enough for 3.
Okay. Well, they also on the back end said we're dropping a 3rd, and he didn't know that. Oppenheimer. They were like, he was like, we're gonna drop one on Hiroshima, and then they were like, and then we're gonna drop another one on Nagasaki, and he was like, we only need one. They're like, no, we need one to show that we've got it. We need another one to show we'll keep dropping them until you surrender. Even though
bluff.
Yeah, which is a bluff. Yeah.
I wonder if maybe it's the phrasing of that jar line. Maybe he says something like, "This is all the materials we need," and maybe doesn't specify it's one.
I was just saying that I feel like maybe it was added to create tension.
Okay.
Like this is a movie thing. We're going to give you a visual aid to show like the timeline that we have. And I don't know if that was real.
Gotcha.
And
I would have to check on that. But
and it feels like it was something that was just made to give you a physical representation. And it should have been stated, we're making 3 bombs. This is the material we need for 3 bombs. And it was just like, this is what we need to make a bomb. And it only gets filled up once.
Yeah.
And then they made such an emphasis on the fact that if this doesn't go right, $2 billion is dead, 2.5 years is gone, when technically they have enough materials for another one. So if they needed to test another one, they would test another one and only drop 1 bomb. I would assume they would do that instead of not do anything. So like just kind of like I said, maybe it's a small pick, but that's the only thing I felt during the movie that I was like, I don't like the way that was artificially created tension for a timeline thing when it doesn't logistically make sense. But maybe it could be explained, and it was like, oh, okay, I just kind of misunderstood what
I know
this was.
There's The Wire did an interview with this like nuclear physics historian. And I don't remember what he said, but he broke down like this is how much we had and how much a little bit better.
Gotcha.
I think that clarifies it a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely don't think, like, I don't dispute that it took 2.5 years to get the material. It was just how it was communicated on screen.
Maybe, once you do it, you get better at doing it.
Yeah.
So we've asked a couple questions. I have a couple answers for you. So him being denied his renewal, this is from a website.
Cool.
Great source.
APS.org. So he was basically denied. Oh, his contract as an AEC advisor, his one remaining link with that body was terminated. So he basically was fired. Like him not getting his contract or getting his clearance renewed basically means that he was fired from his job. Apparently, so Oppenheimer told people that Truman called him a crybaby scientist. But when Truman's been asked about it, he's been like, I never said any of those things.
Oh, of course he's gonna say.
Yeah.
so I couldn't find it. Like, anyway, I wanted quotes. That's what I wanted.
Yeah, I was trying to look up something too. It was kind of.
That's just crazy to say to someone that's just trying to deal and process with the fact that, he directly caused the death of was it close to 400,000 people
A lot.
after all of it.
And
Anywhere from 200 to 400,000, I think, is what they were kind
increasingly
of.
more as time goes on.
Yeah.
With cancer and whatnot.
That's why I think it was like up to 400,000
Yeah.
or something like that. But so like to just try to discredit the it's totally understandable for somebody to have some real,
Reservations.
yeah, and feel some regret and or trying to process, how he should feel about that, and and be somebody that's trying to. It would also make sense that he's somebody that's trying to fight against a bigger version of what he just did. That's going to cause even more damage, and obviously with the line that we get at the very end, he's scared that he did in fact blow up the world, not because of the bomb that was dropped, but because of the science that he created in the weapon that he gave the world, and that it will someday make it to the point where we blow up the entire world. So
that image of all the trails in the clouds is
Oh,
haunting.
that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
or the fire overtaking the earth. Yeah. I do think that's I didn't know that about the atomic bomb, where the theoretical physicists thought that there was a chance that once the atoms start bursting, they may continue to burst throughout the entirety of the earth.
Yeah. And they really did take bets on that.
Yeah. And so that's yeah, this
You're not going to collect a whole lot if you're if you were right.
It's like they say in the movie Gallows. Humor.
yeah, gallows humor, yeah. Yeah, I thought that was an extremely interesting thing that I didn't know about it.
Yeah.
Which added a whole bunch of extra weight to it, because it's you're sitting there yeah, sure, it's a 0.001% chance or something, but that's still a chance.
Yeah.
And it's like you said, they didn't destroy the world in the sense that the chain reaction didn't go off, but he destroyed the world in the sense that the world will literally never be the same.
Yeah.
The world that existed before Trinity will never exist
Yeah.
again. It's just it's one of those turning points.
Yeah, no, 100.
Just like
100%
9/11 or whatever. Those moments that shifted the globe.
Yep. Okay, well, I finally remembered the thing I didn't like.
Hey.
So that was really it. I think that I have on spoiler stuff. Yeah, I do. I also like how they showcase how he is with his family. Because it's in that conversation he has with, I think, is another professor, who takes his kid for a little bit.
Oh,
And-
the philosophy professor.
Yeah. Who has a good line of, we understand the weight that you're you're going through.
Who
and
is also a communist.
Yeah.
I guess
They're
there were
everywhere.
a lot of
At the time,
a lot of commies in universities back then.
Yeah, among intellectuals, leftism or socialist, communist, whatever labels you want to put on it, the beliefs were high. Yeah, very, very progressive, very highly liberal beliefs. Yeah.
I mean, it's not still there today. A lot of
say liberal. That's a bad label. Actual communists will get really mad if you say that.
well, but it's also I'm sure that there were a wide range. It wasn't just communists. There were also left wing. There were also liberals. There were communists. All of that.
That's just where those beliefs tend to grow. Karl Marx is an academic. His writings are academic writings, and that tends to be where those things are read.
Yeah.
But there's always been a litany of
beliefs
among
that's where they should be, is where you're academically able to debate and cross-reference your ideas and have an actual intellectual discussion on your ideas with people that can, Okay. Do you guys have any other thoughts on this one? I feel like I've gone over most of the spoiler stuff that I needed to. You're looking at me like you want something out of me.
No. I'm just listening, man. Listening to you talk.
Okay.
Listening to you host. What a good job you're doing.
Yeah.
Nice.
Again, visuals, fantastic.
So good.
And guess what? Minimal CGI.
Yeah.
And it showed. Because it felt real. I didn't feel like I was watching computer animation. Okay. I guess we can do ratings real quick.
This is my second 5-star of the year.
Is the first one
Across Survivors.
You did give it 5. I did not.
That's okay.
Okay.
I originally gave it a 4.5, and then I bumped it up to a 5.
You bumped it up to a 5.
Yeah, this is such a good movie.
Okay. I walked out of the theater thinking 5, so and I'm still there.
Yeah, I'm thinking 5.
Yep, here comes the John Wick memes. I've got it stocked on my phone. I'll make sure to throw it up on our episode.
Good.
Yeah, I begrudgingly give it a 5 because Trevor has it in his draft. But here's to hoping Tristen hated it and helping me out a little bit. I don't know her thoughts at all. I don't want to speak for her, but I do believe she did say she liked it, but it was a lot.
It is a lot.
Yeah. So I'm sure it'll still be a decent grade. So you'll get a pretty good average there. Yeah. And your letterbox multiplier will be through the roof because letterbox is at a 4.4. So
Oppenheimer finally overtook Barbie. It's been behind.
No!
It's been behind Barbie. Yeah, last I checked, it was a 4.2 against Barbie's 4.3 or something. And now I think Oppenheimer is a 4.4, and I think Barbie is still at
4.2.
Yeah,
I'm losing. I screwed myself on Across the Spider-Verse by giving it a lower rating, and then
That was a bad idea.
yeah, no, I'm being objective. Okay, hopefully Napoleon saves me at the end of the year.
I'm excited for that.
I'm so excited.
Yeah.
It could definitely not go well in the room, but we'll see.
The movies had a lot of guys had a lot of movies made about them.
Really?
There's Napoleon. There's Waterloo.
I guess I've only seen one. I don't know which one it
This
was.
is the old movie called Napoleon. And then,
Okay.
I know there's Waterloo. There's a couple other movies.
Okay. I've only seen one randomly at some point when I was in
Waterloo's
school.
another one of those really
school.
good historical movies.
Oh.
If you want to learn more about movies that have history in them and like double checking the history but still appreciating them as films, 2 really good channels. One is The Cynical Historian, Cypher. He's a professional historian, PhD. Actually, fun fact, his dad is one of the experts that's on Pawn Stars all the time.
Oh.
Yeah. That's not his claim to fame, but it is kind of fun.
Yeah.
And the other one is called History Buffs. It's a little bit more of a production, but he is not a historian. He's more of an amateur.
History Buffs is a pretty big. I feel like I've
people
seen them
know
before.
History Buffs a little bit more. Those guys both do really, really good work.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Well, yeah, that's 3 5-stars. I don't know when the last time that happened. But yeah, that's it for our Barbenheimer review of Oppenheimer and Barbie, and I guess also Mission Impossible is coming out this week. But for us, it came out last week, but our episode of it's coming out this week.
I also like Barbie.
yeah, he watched the double feature.
Good sociology movie.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, we thank you guys so much for listening. Make sure to go check out the Barbie episode. Whether you've seen it or not, you can listen to us talk about spoiler free. And if you've already watched it, you can watch the full episode and get into spoilers. But we sneak peek. We enjoyed that movie too. So make sure to go check that out. And make sure to rate, review, subscribe, wherever you're listening. YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, blah 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 blah. 1,000 of them.
Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, but we thank you guys so much for checking it out. This has been a great experience. Obviously, Tristen and I dressed up. She's not here, but she also dressed up for Oppenheimer. And yeah, we had a lot of fun. I just realized I didn't turn the lights on, so this is gonna be a dark episode for a dark movie.
Fitting.
Yeah.
Just put it in black and white.
Oh, I could. Okay. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for listening. Come back next week and have a good one.
Hey, moron!
You talking to me? You talking to me?
And there seems to be no sign of intelligent life anywhere.
Hello?
What an idiot!
Well, what do you expect? I'm the movie Moron.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
Don't call me stupid.
Oh, right! To call you stupid would be an insult to stupid people! I've known sheep that could outwit you.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
Man, you are one pathetic loser. No offense.
No, none taken.